Yeah, Head and Shoulders is a fascinating story to me because it was the first story he published in the Post, and it was really his debut as a commercial writer. And I imagine readers of the Saturday Evening Post who, there was romance fiction in there, but there wasn't necessarily before Fitzgerald this really element of fantasy. I mean, this is not a realistic story at all.
No, but it's also not as much of a romance, I think, as some of the later stories were. It's a bit of an adventure.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a lark.
Yeah.
We have two stock characters, although they're not necessarily familiar to us, this intellectual prodigy character, but the chorus girl character,
right,
sort of not city girl, comes to the city and makes good behind the bright lights. That is a stock character, but their dialogue is so much fun, and then the adventure that they embark on together. So yes, it's a couple, and it is their relationship, but the brunt of the story is not so much her winning him or him winning her. It's sort of what they learn about each other and how they take on the world.
Yeah. There's a fantasy, like I was saying a moment ago, there's a fantasy of mutuality, I think, in this story where
what does that mean?
Well, the idea that you are such a perfect couple that you are really two sides of the same person.
Okay.
And that was something that I think Scott and Zelda
we would say peas in a pod.
Peas in a pod, okay. That's the unpretentious way of saying it.
But we go together like peas and carrots.
Okay,
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. But, that idea that when you are married to someone or you love them so much, you, in a sense, become them. And there's almost a role reversal in this over the course of the story where the young...
Not almost, there is.
Yeah, where the young prodigy becomes a circus acrobat.
And she becomes the writer.
And she becomes a famous writer, which is hilarious.
Which totally made me think of Zelda as his muse, and who was a talent. And I think, I'm getting on thin ice here, this is more your bailiwick than mine, but the idea that he took some of her writing or was... reworked some of her writing, incorporated it. So when he wrote this story, how far along were he and Zelda?
Well, this story dates really from when they were not yet married but engaged.
Okay, so it almost prefigures what people...
what's going to happen.
Okay,
he's clearly in this period sort of obsessed with her, but he is reading her diaries and he is aware of her personality, and there is sort of a running joke between them even in this early stage where she's saying things like, well, gee, maybe I could be a writer too, how hard can it be?
Okay.
And he's, of course, been primed since he was a child to think of writing as some sort of godly thing where you have to...
But the story's so great in that he really gives Marcia, sorry, there are a lot of M women in these stories. Marcia Meadow.
Right.
Yeah, she had changed her name to be in vaudeville. He gives her the upper hand in the end. I really liked that he was able to relinquish that.
I think a lot of these women in many of these stories get the upper hand. And
they do.
That's part of what maybe people who only know Fitzgerald through Gatsby don't recognize, because in that novel, Daisy's such a sort of remote figure, and that novel is so much about the male fantasy of a woman that it often surprises people that he could be this empathetic towards women. There's also another theme I think that's kind of fun in this story, and it would haunt Fitzgerald the older he got, but there's this fascination with youth and with being a prodigy. And so the joke in the story is you've got this kid who, is a PhD by the time he's 13 or 14 or whatever, and he's reading all this philosophy. He's the head of the relationship, the
head, and she's the shoulders, because
right.
she gets around by
right.
shimmying, which I won't really do.
But the notion of, the idea of youthfulness, and I love in the story that she's actually 2 years older than him.
Well, and also the idea of shoulders, of sort of carrying the weight.
Right.
Because in the early part of the story, it's her income that supports them, which also is unusual in the collection,
right.
that there is a working woman, and not only is she working, but she's making more than he is. So it's her shoulders that bear the brunt of the financial responsibility for the family, but then once she has the baby, he has to put it on his shoulders, and it is by relinquishing his intellectual head that he's able to do that. So it's a fascinating commentary, possibly, on the ability of a writer to make a living with his craft.
Right. There's a passage in the story that I just absolutely love, and would you indulge me and read it?
This is so painful. So Marcia and Horace have just met, right? This is when she shows up sort of on a dare in his college dorm room.
Right.
Which doesn't, the description of it is not like any college dorm room I've ever seen, maybe at Oxford. No, interrupted Marcia emphatically, and you're a sweet boy. Come here and kiss me. Horace stopped quickly in front of her. What do you mean, you want me to kiss you? He asked intently. Do you just go around kissing people? Why, yes, admitted Marcia, unruffled. That's all life is, just going around kissing people.
How much
Sounds like
better,
a good life to me.
How much better would the world be if that was everybody's...
That's all we were doing, going around
If that was everybody's philosophy.
Especially little bitty people.
That's right. That's right.